You're watching a video of the October 2023 meeting of the Charlotte Woodworkers Association. This video includes the entire meeting and basically has two sections. The first one is announcements about the club and discussion related to the club's activities and club business. And following that, it goes on into the main topic of the meeting, which is a discussion about workbenches. So before each of these sections, you'll see a slide that introduces that section and summarizes what will be in it. This first section of the video is the section on announcements and other club business. And as you can see from the list on this slide, we went through quite a variety of topics. The total of all of this was about 44 minutes long, so if you wanted to skip this and go straight to the discussion about workbenches, that gives you an idea about how much of the video you have to skip into.
Okay, we're ready to get started. So you're a visitor, or you're a new member, right? Okay. Well, great. Introduce yourself real quick. Oh, great. Okay. First of all, Matthews Alive this year, we received $800 for being at Matthews Alive, and that's the biggest amount that we've ever had. Okay, now one special Christmas again is December 2nd. If you're going to go to the auction, if you want to take your gift, whatever you make sure you send them an RSVP that they know you're coming. They need that so they know how much food and drinks to get. And if you made something and you can't take it yourself, then I will take it. I know we got a few things over here that I'd be taking. Everybody hear me all right? Okay. Now, this is going to be the last meeting we have at this location. If you got Ron's email on it. And Ron, you want to talk about the...
But hear me okay?
It's not on.
About now. A little better?
There you go.
There we go. All right. Starting in January, we're going to be meeting at Valhalla Presbyterian Church Fellowship Hall called Johnston Hall. And that's only half the size. It continues on off to the right, about double that. It has a drop-down screen, an open-up whiteboard. It has a projector here, and around this corner is a complete little AV closet with all the stuff, and it's got Wi-Fi connectivity. And for those of you, it's in the Pineville area. So everybody see this okay? All right, it's pretty self-explanatory. Right here. South Neck is right here. Southminster Retirement Facility is right here. Park Road going all the way uptown and coming down and intersecting with Highway 51, Pineville Matthews. There's two entrances into the church lot. It's a 10-acre campus, and you can turn right into the driveway here. There's a handicap access here, but our main access will be you park anywhere out in here and you walk into the courtyard and double doors will be open right here. Restrooms are down in this area here, little kitchen there. It's fully self-contained. We have padded chairs, any number of tables we need. And then if you come headed south from uptown area, you would turn left onto Smithfield Church Road and turn right into the parking area there. And as you're leaving the meeting, if you're going north, you can get back out this way because you're with the flow of traffic. If you're going south, you'll need to go around and come out here to the traffic light and wait for that and turn left, or come out here and do a U-turn and head back south. Google it, 8801 South Park Road, Fort Hall Presbyterian. I think it's going to be pretty exciting. It's going to be great. Questions?
Okay, good. I mean, the reason we're meeting there is several. One is we know that Makerspace may have to move in June. And the second reason is, well, some of us you see here, we never know where we're going to meet. We never know if we're going to have Wi-Fi or not. And it's just going to be a lot more comfortable for everybody. Okay, December, our Christmas party is going to be at the Hibachi Buffet. Everybody know where that is? It's, you know where Woodcraft is? Well, if you're looking out the front of the door on Woodcraft, across the street is a shopping center, and it's in that shopping center. So to be on the second Tuesday, which is December 12th, 6:30 p.m. And it is, if you get there later, it's no big deal because it's buffet. And what we do is, it'll be $12 per person, and it costs more than that, but the club picks up the excess. And the main thing is we have a gift exchange. Oh, and your spouses and others, friends, whoever wants to come with you are all invited, obviously. We have a gift exchange. So if you want to have your other significant other receive the gift, to pick up a gift, you have to bring a gift. So it's something you make. Well, it doesn't have to be something you make, but we would prefer it. And wrap it up, and then everybody, when you bring it in, you could give your other significant other a ticket with a number on, and then we pull tickets, and they can go up and pick whatever they want. And everybody goes ooh and ah when we open them up. 6:30. Yeah, 6:30 is when we start having people go eat, but I say if it's going to be later, it won't be a problem. Okay. Also, we will have our drawing for door prizes. What we do is, you see that box over there with the red tickets? If you haven't been putting it in, every time you come to a meeting, you put your name on the back of a ticket and you put it in that box. And then we draw from that box for door prizes at the Christmas party. Usually it's 2 gift certificates. I think lately we've been going to Amazon for gift certificates so you can get whatever you want. And they're probably cheaper for a lot of woodworking things than Rockler or Woodcraft anyhow. So that's coming up. The club logo is put on the back burner because we have a lot of things on our plate right now. So that's going to be on the back burner for a while. All right. So now we have to do elections. We have one position that's open for vice president. And we will take nominations at this point. Is there any nominations for vice president? And don't nominate someone unless you've talked to them. No nominations? Okay. So I guess for now, we will proceed without a vice president. Now, the vice president's job is to set up the programs for the monthly meetings. So the rest of the officers would try to do something with that, but it would be better if we had a vice president. And then Dave said he would run as a member at large to take over for Greg. So, and the purpose of the member at large is it's not an official member of the board. I think we only have 4 positions on our charter for the board: president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. But their main thing is to keep up with the rest of the club members and then So we have a little bit more feedback from the club for our meetings, and they all vote in the meetings also. So if there's no objections, I guess we will stand with the president, people in office, except for vice president, and David be coming in. Okay, no objections. I don't have a mallet, so we just go without it. Well, I got something here, but I don't know if you want to use that. All right. Should I do it like they did in the House of Representatives? Okay, we're done. All right, when they voted, what's his name out? Yeah, okay. Now we have the books and DVDs in the library. Most of you know we're clearing that out. Main reason we're doing that, well, is because nobody's ever used it, or very few people have used it over the years. And DVDs are old technology, so I don't know how many people in here have a CD player or DVD player. Oh, we got a few. So take them. All right. Okay. We're in the process of working out a new location for our shop. What we found is a shop that was a cabinet making shop. It's located in Lake Wiley. Now, Lake Wiley is be too far for a location we think to have our meetings. That's why we're going to have our meetings up on Park Road. Because a lot of people, if you live in the north side of town, drive down to Lake Wiley in an evening is going to be pretty tough. So initially, it's going to be a place for to have classes. And then the reason, well, it's probably advantageous for us to have classes. First of all, it'd be cheaper for the club members, because if we have a class here, we have to share expenses with Makerspace. Okay, so they take half of whatever the billing is for the class. So our classes will be, we used to have all our classes at no cost to members. So there may be a little bit of cost now, but it's not going to be what you'd have to have here. Basically, we have control of all our equipment and everything. And for our larger classes, like if we're going to be making tables and chairs, and those classes you're not going to finish in one session, there'll be space there to store your project there until you come back for the next class. And so right now, again, it's going to be just for classes and for shops when we do things like make the bird houses for hawk. You know, every year we make bird houses that we take to the park on Earth Day, and kids, you know, put them together. So stuff like that'll be done there too. Now, if we have enough people interested in having come into an open shop at that location, we can probably talk about setting that up too. So after January, there will be no more open shop here at Makerspace. Okay. As of at the end of January, we have no more involvement with Makerspace. We haven't had a lot of turnout for our Monday nights for open shop. I mean, but a few people do come. But again, for classes or stuff like that, we'll be able to do it at that location. Now, we will be needing some help clearing the place out. The reason it's available is that it was a cabinet shop, but this woman's husband who had the shop died, and she's got the shop. And so there's a lot of his stuff in there, and there's a lot of other stuff in there too. So we have to clear that out. And as long as I'm at it, the reason we were having it there is because she wanted to make the shop available for educational purposes, you know, for training people on to do stuff like woodworking. So she's very helpful with us, and our cost is gonna be the same as we're paying here. So there's no increase of cost for that. Huh? I can't hear. My hearing aid went out.
And air conditioning.
You open the door or close the door? There's some heaters in there, but it's not centralized heating, and there's no air conditioning, but there's vent fans and other fans. It'd be a lot like we had on Jackson Park. It'd be probably better than Jackson Park because Jackson Park had a lot of open areas the wind would come in. Huh? And airplanes. Yeah. And one other thing nice about the meeting spot, it's going to be quiet. We're not going to have air compressors and heating systems and somebody in the other room running the planer. Okay, so we're going to need some help cleaning out, which we'll let you know. We're going to need help moving our stuff over there. So we'll probably rent a truck or get somebody with a trailer. And we probably, with 2 vehicles, a big truck and a trailer, we'll probably do it in one day. Load up here and just drive down there. Again, we want to have as many classes as possible. And probably classes won't start to February until we get everything moved in. So on top of that, if you have something you would like to teach, let me know, because we'd like to get that. And we're going to try to get some other people like Mark to teach a class on dulcimer making. He's done like 2 or 3 of those. And we'll definitely do a table class, and we'll definitely do a chair class. So, all right. Now, there probably will be an increase in dues. We're going to have to go $10 more a year. I think we're 40 now. We have to go to 50. And that's mainly going to go for the new meeting location. Because we keep the dues basically to cover our operating expenses. You know, the rentals, we have to pay insurance, liability insurance. We do have to, in the little place where I pay the electric bill, which isn't going to be much because we're not going to be using it a lot, but we have to pay that. So those things is what the dues cover. And then the other stuff that we do, if we buy a new piece of machinery, or we do donate to One Special Christmas, and we do pay for the wood. Sometimes we get free wood for the birdhouses. Stuff like that comes from things like buying raffle tickets, the money that we get from Matthews Alive, and that kind of item. So any questions on any of that? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, Dave says he's got a lot of extra machinery if we need it. Okay. And we have a good mixture of machinery. One thing he has that we don't have, or he had, is a molding machine with the big cutters. So we make crown moldings and all that kind of stuff. So that's one thing that we'll be picking up and using. Anybody here been reading their Google groups, emails? That was a long string of talks about how to put a hinge on. So Bob is going to come up and he's going to give us 5 minutes, right, Bob?
Yeah.
5 minute talk on how he puts hinges on. I'm going to give you this.
Can I just holler?
No,
Can y'all hear me?
We got to record this
Oh, we gotta record it.
because it's going on.
Where you put this?
Put it like about here. Hang it on your put it on your beard.
Yeah, probably could. See what can you hear me now? Okay, we'll put this in my pocket.
Hold it.
Okay. Well, here's my hinge. Can I use this table right here?
Okay, that's enough. I can get started. When you go buy you a set of hinges, and these are nice brass hinges I got from Woodcraft, when you fold them shut like they are now, they end up shutting like this. But when you install your hinges, you want the two leaves to be parallel. You see what I'm saying? So you have to come up with some filler to hold those leaves parallel. And then you're ready to, I go to the table saw to cut my hinge. I think these two match. I cut both the box mortise and the top mortise on the table saw. You can see the mortise I cut there. And of course, your hinges are going to fit right in here. Well, once you think you got the mortise to the right depth, stick your hinge in there with the filler in it. The thickness of this hinge is different when you have the filler as when you have no filler. And so you have to get this mortise the right depth or the right thickness. And once you cut your mortises and you, by trial and error, have them the right thickness, then you're ready to go to the next step. These two boards, sticks, were actually wedged into the top of the box I was working on and wedged into the box itself. And they were back up to keep from having tear out when you cut the hinge. Can you imagine what I'm doing there? I'm using them so I get a nice clean cut. Okay, well, imagine this is going to be the top of the box. And when you're putting in your screws for your hinges, it's good to work straight down. I actually use the drill press when I can, when I'm installing hinges. But you've got your hinge, you got your mortise at the right depth, and you get your epoxy out, and you put 2 drops of epoxy there. You place your hinge in the mortise, and you align it and clamp it down. So you got one hinge leaf temporarily attached. The surface of the hinge doesn't work real good with epoxy, so I use the gel epoxy. But it'll stick it and hold it together enough for you to get the 3 screws or however many screws your hinge has. But we've got this hinge temporarily attached. We do the same thing over here. We temporarily, with epoxy, attach the hinge in the mortise. Then this is the top. We're going to be working down. We can go to the drill press, and with a Vicks bit, well, a Vicks bit, when you place it on top of your hinge, it centers the screw hole perfectly. Well, basically, okay, that's the end of the bit. It's got a taper on it to make it fit perfect. I'm a little bit nervous. It's the one that you can see me. So now we're getting ready to install our screws on this one leaf. It's the top, and we're working down. You can go to the drill press to countersink your hole with a Vicks bit and install the screws on both sides. So now we have the hinge attached to the top. Now we got it's flapping on this side. It's only attached, of course, one leaf. So now we get our box out. And we've got our mortises cut in the box. We have our hinge attached to the top. Okay, then we trial fit it. No epoxy yet. And we see that the hinge fits in the mortise properly. And we feel around the box and make sure the lid is on the box properly. I probably should have brought a box with me, but you trial fit it to make sure it works and that the top is going to fit on the box properly. Then you put your 2 dabs of epoxy in the mortise and you press this in to the mortise with the hinges. And the whole time on the hinge, you have to be careful to make sure your spacer is still in place. This is one of my spacers I use on the actual hinge. It's a piece of paper towel. It's a piece of paper towel. Okay, to get the spacer correct, I have all these little pieces of veneer that I use so that my 2 leaves on the hinge are parallel. This is probably the most important thing you do, is to get these parallel. That way, well, when you cut your mortise, the 2 surfaces of the mortise, when you put the box together, are parallel. And that's why you want your hinge parallel. When you cut your mortise, it doesn't fit together like that. It fits together parallel. Okay. I've just put my 2 drops of epoxy, and you have a few seconds then to put your screws in, to put your hinges in those mortises. Align your top, and I do it by feel. Because if you don't feel any difference, the top shifted one way or the other, then you're right. And then within seconds, you're ready to put the pressure, and I usually use a clamp to make sure I get plenty of pressure for the hinge to be epoxied in there. Does everybody follow me what I'm doing? Okay. Then I use a regular, I don't even know what you call the clamps. Yeah, any kind of clamp. Or I have a bunch of lead. I'll just rest some lead on top. You can even use lead from fishing lures to do the original hinge in the top. It's sort of hard to clamp that the way it's shaped. Once you have your hinge temporarily attached to the box, you can actually, and it's cured out, you can actually open the lid of the box. And again, you can work down to use your Vicks bit. I usually do this by hand rather than a drill press. But you want to try to get it as vertical as possible. You don't want your screw going in at an angle because it might mess up the way the hinge closes. Once you've drilled your holes, you put your screws in there and your installation's done. You close your lid and it fits perfect because you aligned it perfect before the epoxy dried. Okay, question?
Yeah, do you have to make sure that you've got all your finish done so that in the future you don't need to take the hinges off for any reason?
Okay. They will pop right off. you can take the screws out and that epoxy doesn't stick to the surface of the hinge that well, but it sticks good enough for you to install screws. I've taken 3 sets of hinges off. They'll just pop right off. I thought I was going to have to pry and everything, but with my finger, I just popped it off. Okay, no, I learned this right here. We had a guy that made small boxes do a program, and I asked him how did he do his hinges, and he says, "Oh, I use epoxy temporarily put them on there." But when you temporarily, you can get everything perfect, and then put. I hadn't tried the CA glue. Don't know anything about it. I got everything in my sack. This you can get at Lowe's. Works perfect.
If you use the activator, the CA glue, your set time is instant. So if you're trying to feel that,
You have a few seconds when you use this to put your hinge in there, put some pressure on it.
now, sticks you have, that's a typical.
Okay. I wedge this in the top of the box. The top of my box has a rim around it that you actually cut the mortise in. And I wedge these in there with these sticks. They're limber enough and they hold tight enough that once you get them wedged in there to cut this mortise, they don't move. And you're doing this on the table saw, which probably isn't the safest way, but that's the way I do it. And these sticks were what I wedged these in there. Okay. Yes. These are wedged in there to get a clean cut. Okay, my hinges are about that far from the edge of the box. I place my hinges, they look better if they're not way out of the edge, you bring them in. What was your question now?
My question is, the hinge not flat, thick wood.
Okay, there's 2 ways to cut that mortise. I do it on the table saw. You can chisel it and you leave a little piece, you leave wood right here. Mine are cut all the way through. This is within 1/16 of an inch the width of the hinge. The hinge is a little bit less. The hinge leaf is yeah. It might look better if you cut a true mortise and you have that piece of wood coming through here. But my hinges, the leaf is just about that width, and I don't think it looks bad. I think it looks okay. Everybody thoroughly confused? I'll quit. Okay. That's my dog and pony show. I'm not used to it.
Put in his cabin. Sorry, here I am, plus everybody else, and I'm not mic'd. There we go. These are just butcher block countertop cutouts from sinks. And he gave me a whole, like, he had extra, and he gave me a ton of the stuff. I don't like working with it. anyway, I split these down and put some Purple Heart through and glued them back together. And this one I didn't do anything. I used to soak these things in mineral oil, and I had some in my kitchen, and they kept drying out, and you have to keep re-soaking it. I switched to Odie's oil. I used the oil, one coat, and then I put on Odie's hard wax on top of that. You put the Odie's oil on, let it wait 45 minutes, wipe it off, put it on really, really thin. And then the hard wax makes it even more impervious to moisture. And these are pretty much bulletproof to moisture, as long as they don't put them in a dishwasher. Odie's oil, O-D-I-E-S. Now, if I can get back up again, that's the question. Oh, don't break it. It's about $45 a jar. You pass that around. I'm not a paid sponsor. It just works really well. That's my finish of choice. I no longer use polyurethane, shellac, wipe on anything. Man, I just love this stuff. I can't say enough good about it. It's very easy to put on. You wipe it on and buff it off, and that's it. Anyway, these are for One Special Christmas. And Bruce has reminded anybody that is donating something to fill out these forms. I printed out 2 extra forms if anyone has anything tonight to give to Bruce. But if not, if you're thinking of donating something and taking it to Bruce's house, I'll give you one of these forms already printed out. All you need to do is fill it out and give it to Bruce. I'm sorry? There's a website, yeah. So any questions on the One Special Christmas and the donation form?
Remember, if you're going to the dinner, you have to, Rich, if you're going that night from the event, that's Rich.
For the One Special Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's enough of my blabbing. Here's your mic back.
Got the location. Okay, we have.
While we're talking about One Special Christmas, I have my father.
Okay, we got one other one here. Okay, we have one other item.
Hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. About 7 years ago, I had my granddaughter was born, and I wanted to make something special, so I made an heirloom cradle out of cherry wood. And I had extra cherry left over, and I wanted to know what to do with it. And I like puzzles, so I started making wooden puzzles. And this is my donation to the One Special Christmas. There's 4 different puzzles here, and what I call them are brain teaser puzzles. As you can see, the purpose is to get this ring through this hole, but it doesn't fit. So you got to figure out how to do it. I don't know. It's a relatively simple thing. I don't know if you people all want to know the secret or not. I can show you how to do this, but the simplest thing, so it seems, is a 4-piece puzzle that forms into a shape of a T. You can see there's 4 pieces here. What's that? You give out hundreds of these, so you know exactly how to do it. And it was just one of the other things that I had extra that I wanted to donate towards the charity. The key to this is there's a right angle here. And most people think that you got to make a right angle, and the right angle, if you try to work it, you'll never make the T. So I'm not gonna, I could put it together if you wanted to see how it goes, but interest in that or not?
Make those puzzles for our, and give them away. That's one of the things I do at, Benton's a lot.
The bag out of the way.
Yeah, let me just try to put it together and I'll get it. I do. Not sure if not sure if I can hold it up or not. Can you?
Can't that bag out of the way.
But essentially, that forms a T. Can you see that? And it's only 4 pieces, pretty simple, but the thing that screws people up is this right angle. It's like, how does that right angle go? Okay. I also have the solutions in here so people don't go crazy, which I think is probably an important thing. This is one of the favorite things I like to make. It's called a Soma cube. You can make a Soma cube?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I don't know what they're called.
This is actually in its own little case. There's pieces that are glued together, and it's basically a 9x9 cube. It will fit together about 100 different ways. Some scientist in Norway or something figured this out. I guess the guy's name is Soma. But I just have a rubber band around it just to hold it in the bag. But again, I'm not going to take this all apart and share the secrets. They're in the bag. And the last thing that I thought would be nice for people to donate, and I just finish them with tung oil. I usually don't use anything more than that to finish them. Since they're cherry, they're pretty wood. Yeah, Danish tung oil. Just Danish oil. This is called a wooden cube. I don't know if you can see that or not. There's only 3 pieces to this, but it can be a nightmare to take apart and get together. But I have to use the scroll saw for the C part. The rest I usually use the bandsaw on my table saw. But the pieces do slide and move, which is how the whole thing goes together up and down. But obviously I don't have it in the right direction. But believe me, I can solve it and I can put it back together, but I'm not going to waste your time doing it. But I thought this would be nice for people. Take it from there. Pretty simple.
I think we can keep moving and
Yeah, you go ahead. I didn't want to take. I can do it. I can show. So sorry. It just gets slid. And it works. They're puzzles.
Okay, then we have one more item, I think, Bob, for One Special Christmas. He's going to bring it up, Bob.
I'm just gonna hold this. This is gonna be a log bench. It's a little over 4 feet long, 18 inches high. That's not it. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Okay, I'm a bachelor, so I live like I want to live. That's my living room. But it's I spent 4 years in Alaska. That's where the snowshoes come from. Some of my planes I collect. Anyway, lightning struck this tree, and it was in my brother's side yard, and he wanted some firewood. And we cut him up a bunch of firewood, and then I chainsawed out a bench, the top of it. And I've had it for about 15 years, and I'm assuming it's dry enough, even though it is white oak. It's 18 inches high and a little over 4 feet long. And it's to be auctioned at the One Special Christmas. And there, December 2nd is the One Special Christmas date. Okay, that's it.
I thought workbenches would be a good topic.
Keep it lower again. Your mic may be pointing down.
Oh. Is that better? Good, good. Okay. I thought workbenches would be an applicable topic for our program today. I asked for some folks to send in photos. I don't know if we can pull up the photos that were sent in. All right, who's the owner of that bench? Are they here today? Oh, is that Bob's? Okay. That's my bench. All right, yeah, hold that one right there. I built this bench. It's actually a table for my metalworking saw. My metalworking lathe weighs about 550 pounds. So I wanted to have something that was stout. The timbers came from a machine shipping crate, and I was able to salvage the timbers, obviously, after we took the crate apart. But of significance, all the joints are mortise and tenon joinery. I used off-center holes for the dowel pins. And then you can see the plugs I used for the lag screws, and I lag screwed it together. You can't see it in the photo, but these are 1/4-inch thick steel plates that I screwed to the bottom of the leg and then drilled and tapped to accommodate leveling pads that I had. What was interesting for me is when I went to level the tabletop, it was able to stand on 3 legs. And I had the 4th leg, I could turn it into. It had not yet made contact with the floor. And boy, was I surprised. I mean, that was a real treat. The point being, mortise and tenon joints just are unbelievable. Whenever making a joint, I can't say more about using a mortise and tenon joint. All right, give me another photo, please. This is the end of my bench, just a standard woodworker's vise, but I made the block a little bigger than just a normal 3/4 or 1 inch as an extension of the bench. And I actually can clamp on this and use it as an additional tool. It just really comes in handy for me. And the other one I have this is the one I got from Lee Valley. If you're going to do an end bench, you can see here, it's the end of my bench. And those are my bench dogs, obviously on the end. But what's nice about the Lee Valley mechanism is this is a chain drive on the 2 handles. And you can disconnect the one so it now moves in an unparalleled position. So if you have an out of square block that you're using, you can still clamp it with all the force of a normal vise. And you can adjust it. So the guide rails can accommodate whatever bench you're building. So I think Lee Valley really did a good job bringing out this vise. And if anybody's going to make an end vise, I recommend you look at this one first, and gives you a good way to figure out what you're going to do next.
I like your dovetail. That's what I call it.
Yeah. That's the skirt. What I did on my skirt, this is screwed in. Should I ever cobble up this skirt, I can replace it. But I clamp on this. This is an integral part of my bench. But the other thing I did on this bench here, and you can see it, I mortised the back, the stationary plate on the back of the vise. Back here, you can see the scarf joint. Should I ever cobble up that part of the vise, I can always replace it. And those are just screwed in plugs, so I can replace that part. But now I have a flush joint all the way across here, and this becomes a clamping board, should I ever need that. But whenever I work on the back here on that vise, I don't have interference. So I just have a straight run. And then on this bench, this is adjustable down the bench, and then obviously I just did threaded holes so I can adjust it with the plug.
Everybody going down this board, we got some new people, Jim, I don't know if they know that board with the holes.
I can line it up either with the dowel holes, or I can cut off with the vise. But if I got a long board on here, that just supports that long board so it doesn't fall down through. So I've edge planed 8-foot length of boards on this bench. So
They put it in back pocket.
oh, it's got a clip. It's just a handy accessory to have. I'll talk a little bit about some of the accessories since they're up here. Every now and then I need a little vise and I didn't know where to put it, so I just put it on a block of wood, and then, you know, there it is. Sacrificial block to go on your wood vise, so you don't cobble up this. And I've done that. On my big bench, my sacrificial, I have to replace them. They just get beat up. Obviously, end clamps. I never use this one. You got to have a special hole, and they don't match up with my holes on this one. But by using, and somebody else, Bruce, is this yours? These things are amazing. One piece, no fiddling around. All you need is a hammer to free it up. It's a nice tool. This one obviously is threaded and clamps, but it's available. I built a tool tray to be removable because I do a lot of clamping. This is good for small and medium-sized projects, but now I can clamp from both sides and I can use the whole. This is flat. If you don't have a flat bench, you're not going to have quality work. It's the reference point for all woodworking, except for boat builders. Do we have any boat builders here? I have just admiration for boat builders because they don't work flat. The hull of a boat, obviously, we can envision, just requires amazing craftsmanship to make it work. So 99% of us work on the flat, so everything, parallels, flat, and everything else. So it just works better when I can pull it all together that way. That's it for mine. Let's go with some others. Yeah, questions?
Your Valley in, plan, when you, release the chain transfer where they're both moving together,
Yeah,
is there a reset to return to true square? It's great to know you could clamp a tapered, chair leg or something.
right.
But
To reset,
to reset the true
yeah, I just
square-
wind it up tight with
okay.
face to face. Okay, and then just set the pin on the movable gear. I mean, it's real quick. It's really a very well designed vise. Especially for people like me, we're amateurs. I mean, we have enough problems just making that hammer work, right? The top is maple. The top is hard maple. The rest of it is poplar. And this bench is, the reason I built this bench is I wanted to take it to antique tool shows where I would set up the bench and then run the antique tools that I was selling. But I spent more time taking the bench apart and putting it together than I did selling tools. But it's totally dismantleable, so I can take the whole thing all the way apart. I used threaded fasteners, so everything is on one side, so I can take it all apart. Hey,
Put sand in the bottom or anything to hold it?
no. I use the big bench if I got any, if I'm doing serious stuff. The other thing is I got to move this around. I'm space challenged in my shop. I really never thought that I could walk sideways as well as I can, but I'm a real good sideways walker. And if you ever come to visit me in my shop, you got to be able to. So, for a small size bench, I get a lot of mileage out of it. Then what I found out, thanks to Mike Smith gave me a piece of glass, 18 inches by 48 inches long, half-inch thick. And it fits perfectly on this bench for two reasons. First, size-wise, but also I do a lot of hand planing. And to hand plane well, you got to find that sweet spot for your torso, for your arms, for your elbows, and to plane. And what I can do with Mike's piece of glass is I can flatten a hand plane when I'm tuning up the hand plane. You can flatten hand planes on a table saw top, probably this wide, maybe 3, 4, maybe up to 5. But once you get into 6, 7, and 8 number planes, and you're out this far, you just can't flatten on a table. I couldn't flatten correctly. But boy, when I walk that number 8 down that piece of glass, she comes out dead nuts. Now, because Mike gave me that piece of glass, I feel obligated to not own it. So it's available to any club member that wants to flatten. And we'll take a 3. It doesn't matter what size plane you use, but you got to start flat, and that piece of glass is flat. So thank you, Mike, again. And it's available. Pictures, any other questions? We get some more? Yeah, we got other picture people. Oh, good question. Do you use this?
I use that all the time. I think about an inch and a half would be fine. Yeah.
Twice the diameter, I think.
That's so long as the holes aren't much bigger than the hole vest.
You need snug holes?
Well, just so it fits in. It could be a little bit bigger, but the hole's too big, well, then you need a longer
You need a longer shaft.
bench, thicker bench.
Yeah.
That's tapered.
Oh, no, not really. That one I don't think.
This was not. The other one's serrated. So that, that's variable. I mean, you can come in with an inch, inch and a quarter, maybe an inch and a half top.
But when you're building this one, it's stick with that.
You want now?
Stick with that, say it's better.
Hey, you know, left hand, right hand, it really doesn't matter, whichever you come from. But this, yeah, this I'd have to drill different holes in to use it. That's why. Because when I built this bench, I kept the bench dogs from my big bench so I could interchange them. So that's the only reason these diameters accommodate that bench dog. This one this one I've never used because I don't have the whole base unless I make a board that I clamp, and then I just brought it to kind of show and tell.
Okay, now I can break that.
Now we got other photo people.
Oh, did you throw up the bottom deck? I think there's a folder. Nope. Maybe at the top, or it's in the, yeah, there it is. Recommend bench, that's good.
All right, so I built this bench, 15 years ago. It is something from this book, which was in our library, so that I already have one of these if anybody wants this after seeing this presentation. This part here is a maple butcher block top that I got from work. They were getting rid of a work table, and I took that and kind of cut it down to fit sort of in between. And then this section here is the dogs, which they're not round like these. They're square and they've got like a little spring-loaded thing on them. And you just you route out grooves, this way on this side and this way on this. This is a sliding dog bench, or sliding, is that what it's called, Bruce? Sliding something. This screw, which I got from Woodcraft, basically moves a chunk of wood back and forth. And there's two dogs that can go up in there, and you just, select the right position, and you can clamp your wood in there. And then I got this vise at Lowe's on sale, and I just sort of put it all together. This is some wood I milled up. You glue two pieces together. Basically, it's not like a super duper bench, but it works great for me. I can clamp stuff to it. It's pretty heavy duty. I built it in reverse order of this because I'm left-handed, and I thought that would work better. It seems to work good for me. Two more pictures. This is just in Fun Woodworking magazine, they had a thing about workbenches, and Garrett Hack had he had one of these, and so I did that. It's just take a piece of scrap and make it like a wedge shape, put some screws in the end of the bench, and you pull it up, and it wedges itself in place like that, and you can use it as a bench stop. So you put your chunk of wood on there, and you sort of plane towards that, and you don't have to clamp anything down, it's pretty handy. And then you just push it and it pops right down. The next one, it just sort of shows how the legs are held together. It's easy to knock down. Same sort of way you can hold a bed together, where you get some, I think that Woodcraft sells them called bed bolts, but a friend of mine made these for me. It's just a bolt that goes in, and there's a piece of brass, threaded brass, and it goes in there and pulls everything tight. And there's a dowel in there to keep everything aligned. And these are mortised into the feet. Yeah. So the moral is it's not that hard to build one. I built this with pretty rudimentary table saw and a router. Not a lot of expensive tools, and it's worked for me.
About benches, benches at the back. Did we bring those up? Did we bring benches up here?
We just brought the tops because somebody put concrete in the bottom.
Well, yeah, but they were meant to stay.
Yeah, they stayed. What we're talking about, Dave was involved when we were in the other shop, and we making workbenches, and we've got them over here, the tops. And the tops are basically what I did for my first workbench. I got an old door, and it was old, it was a little rough, but it was flat. Then I took a 3/4 inch piece of plywood and I put it on top. And that was my workbench, and I'm 2x4 legs and cross pieces. So you don't have to have anything really fancy to start, as long as it's flat. And I think this is yours, Greg. Is there a receipt for something? Okay. So you don't need to have a real fancy to start. Now, one thing I want to point out for Jim's food tray, if you want to, can you get in there? I just want to, I want them to see it. So you see these things on the end? What they're for is, if you got dust and you want to sweep it out, you can sweep it out. Now, most of the time, like my bench at home, my till is attached to the bench. So I clean all my junk out of there and I take a broom and I can sweep everything out. Okay. Let me get this out of the way. Now, Jim mentioned for a woodworking bench, you usually want to have it at the height that's good for using hand planes. So usually this one probably would be pretty good for me. You want to have it right about here so you can go on plane, which is great for most things. But sometimes you want to have where you have to do detail work and you have to have it where you can work on it. And down here like this, that's hard on your back, especially when you get old as me. And I was telling someone I'm old because I can remember when Saturday Night Live was funny. Okay, so I made this bench. Now, this was originally the idea from Steve Latta. He's in fine woodworking a lot, and he's an instructor at community college. So he makes this because we're doing a lot of inlay work. So it's up high. You can see what you're doing. And it's solid. It's all oak. And I'm going to talk a little bit about different kind of work holding things. Now, Jim already talked about it. The idea is you've got these on your vise, and then you got the other holes. You put your wood in here and you crank the vise, and that holds everything tight. Well, for this one, I just put one set of holes. But really, you want to have two. So you can put a wider board and you can keep it straight. Now, I would recommend round, what do you call these, dogs? Huh? Yeah, anyhow, round ones rather than square. And the reason for that is, especially if you got two and you're working, say, with a round tabletop, you can put them in there and these will turn and it will hold a round piece on your bench. And it's a lot easier to drill round holes than square ones anyhow. So that I would recommend. Now, this isn't that kind of vise, but you've got wooden face plates on, so you don't wreck your part. You can drill holes. If you make it big enough, you can drill holes and put a dog in there. A lot of vices also have this thing. Oops. That works the same way. Okay, now, I don't have a hammer. Huh? Oh, good question. You see these cutouts? That's for a clamp. You put your clamp in there and tighten it down, and it's not going to move. We're talking about a hold fast. Now, if I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning. But, oops, that wasn't hard enough. No, you got to have a hammer. But with a hammer, you could pick up the whole bench. And then release it, then you just hit it there and it comes loose. And like I say, this is more than enough thickness to hold that. I think my bench at home that I bought a bench from, what's that Swedish company or whatever, that's Sorborg or something like that. Yeah. And I don't think that bench is more than 1.5 inches thick, even though in the end they have a bigger piece on it. So I don't know what this, do you make this? Yeah, it only goes to about there. So anyhow, that's plenty strong for that. Other things I use is a bench hook. That just goes on the side there. I use it mainly for if I'm cleaning up the shoulders on a tenon, or sometimes if you can make 2 of these and you put a big board on there and you can saw the wood. Okay. And this is similar to what Greg has for holding wood. If you want to, this is specifically for a thin piece of wood. If you want to plane a thin piece of wood, it's very difficult to hold it. But this thing would just go up against the stop, and then you take a piece of wood, and then you can plane it or sand it, whatever you're doing. And I just will put it against the dogs like this. Okay. Any questions about any of that? Go ahead. Oh, yeah, if you using something that's good, usually I'm doing something that's rough, but you just take a piece of scrap. Yeah, put it on top. I got a bunch of little squares of plywood scrap that I have sitting around the shop, and it holds just as well. And I got this at Woodcraft. At that time, it's probably a few years ago, it was about $12. It's not a forged one like the good ones that the blacksmiths make. I'm pretty sure it's, well, maybe it is, but it's just one hit, and a punch press. But I've never had any trouble with them distorting or breaking or anything, and I hit them pretty hard. So I'd recommend those. They won't hurt your bench. No, there's one other thing. Okay, now that vise that Jim has at the end of his bench, the nice part about it is it's a twin screw vise, which is what this is. It's not as fancy as that. And it's just threaded on the outside, so I loosen it up, but then I have to spread this out manually. But the nice thing about these twin screw vices are, from here to here, it's wide open. If you look at this vise, there's a screw going right through the middle. So if I'm working on a side of a desk that I'm making, the desk is about that tall, and I'm cutting dovetails in about that wide, how do you hold that if you got one of these vices? The best you can do is, put it on like this, but if it's about that wide, you start sawing over here and the whole thing has vibrations. So I can put something in here that wide and screw it down and be nice and tight. So that's the same for all twin screws. Now this is called a Maxlin vise, and it comes from the fact that years ago, Christopher Schwartz, everybody know who Christopher Schwartz is from Lost Art Press? The first book he came out with was he published some pages from Maxlin, who in 1657, I think, was the first person who wrote a book about using wooden tools, hand tools, and making things. So the book was basically just talking about use basic hand tools, sawing, planing. So the name was Maxon, the guy that did it. No, Moxon, I'm not sure. Moxon. So Chris also did research and for some of the rest of the book, because Moxon has a bunch of volumes. He doesn't just have this little book. And it had things that look like this hanging on the wall. And you had to figure out what it is. Well, what it is a vise that you can clamp it with this to your bench top. So you got a nice twin screw vise if you don't have one normally on your bench. And I like it for doing like dovetails. Again, the dovetails could be pretty wide. This will hold it. And then I put an angle on here for blind dovetails. Everybody know what blind dovetails are? If you look inside a drawer, usually a better made drawer, you can see the dovetails from the side, but you can't see them from the front. Now, through dovetails is you can see the dovetail front and on the side. On drawers, you can only see it from the side. So that's called a half blind dovetail. But in order to cut that, you have to cut on an angle with your saw so that you don't cut into the front of the drawer. And so this is relieved so you can do that easy enough without hitting the vise. Now this is fairly simple to make. This is just a couple Acme thread. No, everybody know what Acme thread is? Okay, it's flat, doesn't come to a point on the thread. And there's a large gap between the threads. So it moves in and out real quickly. And you can go on to Granger or McMaster and you can get these in all different sizes. If anybody wants to do something like this, I got a whole box full of Acme nuts. I think it goes up to 7/8. I had some that were like 2-inch diameter. And I gave those to the guy because he made a vise for his lathe. But if you need some, I got a whole bunch of them. And I'm not going to do too much more of this. So that's all basically it is, this the nut on this end and the screw. Now they have people who sell kits for this. I forget the name of the company. You remember, Jim? And they've got like a hand crank. So you can buy the hardware from them and it's $150, $175. Yeah. If you want, you can also use a wooden threader, a thread box. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And you can get those pretty cheap, maybe $40 or something like that, which is a thread and a tapper. So you can drill the holes, thread it, and then you can cut the threads with the die. So you can make them out of wood too. So that's a handy thing to have. Oh.
You know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Oh, you didn't even talk about those. No, we can talk into this there, so we can hear you.
But you can put them on here like this and do the same thing and clamp them down here with the C clamp. So everybody wonders what these weird looking things are for, but they come in real handy and they get you frustrated because if you try to turn the screws, you get them out of line like that other fellow was talking about and getting them out of parallel, but these are some handy things to have around. How about that first?
Okay. Anybody else have anything else? Ron? Huh? Oh, okay. Can't hear you, Ron.
I was talking to you to give me the mic,
Hearing aids aren't working.
huh? All right,
Huh?
okay. How many of you know what these are and how many of you have some? Okay,
How many use?
okay. How many of you have drilled holes in them and have used them and done all sorts of things with them? Okay. You see the tab on the bottom of this. Going back to Bruce's comment about he started with a couple sawhorses, a door, and a sheet of plywood. That's his workbench. Or two before framing. you evolve. We've all evolved or are evolving from this, and all sorts of levels of sophistication. But for $7 or $8, Harbor Freight, buy these and make them work for you in ways that you don't have time to build right now or the resources. You can clamp this on your bench like so, and clamp the other one the other direction. Turn around, yeah. And you can take it out as long as you want, all the way down the end. Clamp it to your bench, and you can put any width board in there if you want to plane the edge, whatever you want to do with it. It'll fasten to your door, and you've got a really good set of clamps to do whatever kind of woodworking you want to do. Don't think that you can't do a project because you don't have a sophisticated workbench. You do. $7 or $8 at Harbor Freight. And you can take these, I've got multiple holes in them. You can drill them so that they fasten to the bench, and now you have something this way. Anything you want to do. Don't be afraid to drill holes in these things. You can take them apart, run it across your table saw and put a V groove top to bottom. Run it across your table saw, put a V groove side to side. All of a sudden you can clamp dowels without crushing them or anything else you're working on. So they're really versatile. I've got mine padded with leather. Don't be afraid. I mean, there's a lot of books here in the library. You're going to take home some ideas, great ideas. Don't think, oh, I can't do that because I don't have the tools. You really do. Just trying to make them work for you. Any questions? No?
Okay, another thing these are good for is to hold small parts when you try to drill them in a drill press. Because I don't know how many times you try to drill something and the drill catches and it pulls it out of your hand. So those work real well for that, especially if you cut the V cuts into it. One more thing I have. The latest issue of Fine Woodworking Tools and Shops. They got an article there, again from Christopher Schwartz, with a low bench that you sit on and you can do planing, sawing and everything else. And there's also another set of plans in there for making a workbench. So anybody want it? Okay. All right, I guess that's all I have. So we're gonna need some help cleaning up and putting stuff away. So anything else? Okay. All right, then thank you.